Yes, welcome to the No State Project live from the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona. Glad to be with you here today as everyone starts to file through. And I know that not everyone's getting a notification, but hey, you don't have a monetized channel, and that's kind of what they do over there. So, um, got a lot of stuff that we're going to get to here on the big broadcast. Do I have subs at this point? Wow. So all right. People are starting to be able to file in there. I appreciate that. You want to join me on the big show? It's 218-632-9399. 218-632-9399. I will give that out later, but it is episode 111 of the big show today. And tax stuff. These people are, I mean, anybody who's listened to the show for any amount of time knows, and I've given many examples of just gross corruption with tax agents, government agents in general. But man, the dishonesty is it's just so brazen because they can. And also, you can send messages and questions on Skype. It's Frank Rizzo 3, Frank Rizzo with the number 3. Um, but before I get into that, I appreciate everyone with their continued support of the show. It really does help, especially since I've been traveling so much, and the gas is. Who knows? The gas might even it might get even more expensive since they seem to be replaying the Iraq War uh, feed again here, where 120,000 United States troops are being mobilized to go after Iran. Uh, Interesting, just like with Iraq, there's no increases from the Guardian.com, no increased Iran threat in Syria or Iraq. Top official British officer says, contradicting U.S. Well, no kidding. Deputy commander of anti-ISIS coalition rebuts White House justification for sending troops. The top British general in the U.S.-led coalition against ISIS has said there is no increased threat from Iranian-backed forces in Iraq or Syria, directly contradicting U.S. assertions used to justify a military buildup in the region. My gosh, this is insane. Impeach this bastard. Good God. This is the stuff of nightmares if they carried out. They actually attack Iran, which is not like attacking Iraq, which could not really defend themselves too well. It will be a bloodbath. This cannot possibly end well. Oh my gosh. Stuff of nightmares. So we'll see what happens there. Hopefully it's just saber rattling and it's not actual troops on the ground, bombs going off, and a full scale invasion, because that could not possibly be good. This is why we have to have a voluntary society. This is why we have to get rid of the ruling class. Playing chess with other people's lives. And what was it? The War Pigs, with one of the best lines in that song, treating people just like pawns in chess. Yeah, wait till their judgment day comes. That's the thing. Ruling class doesn't have a judgment. They get away with what they do because they have money. And I know I've mentioned this before, but money is a corrupter. The love of money to just keep acquiring and acquiring more and more and more and more and more, and it never seems to be enough. And it doesn't matter who you step on in the way. It's just business. That's the psycho's way to justify brutalizing people and hurting people. It's just business. They're owning stock in McDonnell Douglas and making money off the bombings in Yemen. It's just business. It's Mark. You're just jealous because you don't make $15,000 a week like we do, and with our investments. So what if brown people in Yemen are being killed? Who gives a damn? They're brown people. I got mine, and that's the attitude. I'm a funkle. I got mine. It doesn't matter as long as your bank account gets padded. That's why I couldn't believe that somebody that I knew years ago that was so anti-war, this is going back to the Bush years, and actually wound up spending a significant amount of money on stocks for Halliburton. And he said, well, if I don't, somebody else will. I might as well profit off of it. Okay, well, there go your principles. There goes off to write that hit song, Alone in My Principles. So There is going to be a major change in the No State project, and this is not cause shouldn't be a cause for concern. The show is going to continue on Saturday, but it may not continue always on Saturday. It may actually be on Friday. And I will no longer be doing a commercial broadcast on Saturday. Those days are over because I just am traveling too much. I spend so much time traveling back and forth to California, to help take care of family. That the Saturday show, I just was missing too many. It's not practical for me to do it every Saturday. So I will not be doing the podcast will be still carried by LRN .fm. So you can always hear the latest show on LRN.fm. It will always that it's still going to be in a regular rotation, but as a podcast. So when I do the show, whether I do it on Friday or Saturday, maybe we'll see how it goes and see if where more people can participate in a live show. Uh, so depending on where it is, it's what's great is that it'll be at least an hour, but it's not going to be a 3 hour marathon anymore. So, um, but it will be commercial free, so we won't have the interruptions. So even if I just do a straight 2 hour broadcast, we're going to have the same amount of new content that will then play on LRN.fm and also be available at markstevens.net and on iTunes as usual if you are subscribed to the podcast. What's that on Mark's shirt? Is that really what we're discussing? Do we have that? You guys can't see that? I know some people are going to probably start thinking some kind of Masonic symbol or something like that, but it actually isn't. Although it would be fun to kind of uh, float that. So because it's not going to be a live broadcast on LRN, it's just a podcast. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to have to do something with the numbering here, but so people can identify the show. I probably shouldn't have done the numbers that way, but hey, we're already almost 2 years into these live broadcasts. So well, actually more than 2 years into that. So hey, we'll see what happens there. Uh, Gotta talk about the tax people. Oh my gosh! Look, we knew going into this. We knew going into I got two issues. We got franchise tax board. For those who don't know, the franchise tax board is the California state government equivalent of the IRS. It's the state taxing agency. But we also have the IRS issue. Now, I'm probably going to do a whole video on this particular part because I want to be able to show you the documents that I'm talking about. Uh, we typically do not appeal to the Board of Equalization. So you got the Franchise Tax Board, so you can have a protest hearing, which they'll even tell you is a hearing in name only. So due process requires at a bare minimum notice and opportunity to defend, and it has to be a meaningful hearing. They don't give a damn. I'm about fungal with your rules of due process. Get F you, give me the fungal, give me the money. Fungal, pay me. Fungal, pay me. Oh, you had a death in the family. Fungal, pay me. Oh, you got laid off from work. Fungal, pay me. It's the way it is. So we usually don't do the appeal because the Board of Equalization has always been a joke. And I've mentioned on the show before the reasons why I call it a joke. The game is rigged. It's not because I'm an anarchist. We're going to let that one go. You're quoting me in English. So, Fongo, pay me. Yeah, Paulie Cicero from Goodfellas. F you, pay me. Okay, get back on point here, tough guys. I say it's a rigged game because if you bring an issue of fact that the Franchise Tax Board admits that this is their claim, that if I'm California, then their laws apply, and that's the basis of jurisdiction and the creation of this alleged tax liability. That is their own Admission. I didn't make it up. They'll tell you that. Hell, I got calls on the call of shame. You can hear it for yourself. So, what they do with that, instead of taking your issue of fact, which is based on the actual admissions, so you have the date and time the people called, you try to call them as witnesses, and they say, Abafangul, you're not getting witnesses. Oh, and another thing, we're not even going to give you the information regarding the witnesses, contact information and names, so that you can effect service. Again, Abafangul. That is what they are saying to us. So they come out with an issue of law. They say that they can't even get your issue correct. And they say that the appellant's argument is, and the only issue in front of the board that will be heard is, I'm not a taxpayer within meaning of statute, or I don't have income within meaning of statute. Now, that's not my argument. That's not my claim. That's not my position. But Abafunkel, they don't care. They do not give a damn. Now, if anyone can come up with a legitimate, lucid argument as to how those facts that I just laid out don't show that the game's rigged, please call 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020 with the pound sign. Enlighten me. Because I've gone to Culver City, for example, which is the last time I did one of these things, because they're a friggin' joke. It is a rigged game. I stood there and I objected, and I had done it on paper, and they said Fongul. So I'm standing there in front of all these people, and I make my objection to the board. I said, objection, this is not the issue for appeal. It needs to be corrected. They won't do it. 5-5 vote to stick it to my client with the wrong issue. So if anybody wants to pucker up for the franchise tax board and offer an argument how that is honest and how that's not a denial of a fair trial or fair hearing and that doesn't violate due process, pull your mouth off the FTB's ass long enough to call me and actually lay out your argument. I don't think anyone's going to do that. All you want to do is go and leave messages and comments. Mark's an idiot. He's trying to mislead you. Yeah. So as bad as that is, we have seen even worse. I don't know how you could get worse than that, because we lay out that we have witnesses and we need to have a subpoena for them to appear. They won't give it. They won't disclose. See, it's discoverable material to know the names of the witnesses that they rely on, but they withhold this because it's not about fairness. So I even spoke to this administrative law judge a few weeks ago, and I had to tell him how unfair all this is. And he says, well, we're not the Board of Equalization. We are a whole new board. And I said, well, I got to tell you, I'm not impressed so far, and I have no faith whatsoever. No trust whatsoever. I don't believe that this is going to be fair at all. I don't think that you're going to do it any different. And boy, he was playing to win. I was right. There's no interest whatsoever in having a fair hearing. This is a man who's supposed to be an administrative law judge. I don't remember where he graduated law school, but all these people saying that I don't know what a few people saying that I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, because I'm not a lawyer. I got to tell you, these lawyers, in my experience, not all of them. I don't want to generalize and say they're all. But in my experience, a very large percentage of them are as dishonest as the day is long. So here's an example. Again, I'm going to have a video with the document so you can see this for yourself and not just take my word for it, even though I have firsthand knowledge. Although you have to take my word for that. This guy was asking me, because he got my position wrong. The position was the franchise tax board made a claim and they don't have any evidence to back it up. That's my basic claim. He came out and had an issue of law that that's not the claim that we're making. That's an issue of law. That's a pure issue of law. It's 100% legal interpretation. We are raising an issue of fact, and he had the nerve I even had to say, I object. I said, this is ridiculous. I said, you got to be kidding me. He says, what is the difference? And how does that affect your client's defense? I said, are you serious? You're seriously telling me that I have to lay out for you the difference between an issue of fact and an issue of law, and you don't know the implications of the different defenses? It's not bad enough you can't even get my position right. And this is the thing. They are doing it deliberately. They know what the position is, and they deliberately misstate it. Well, nothing to see here. Nope, nope. I love that they did that on Planet of the Apes. Oh, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. When they can't even get the issue correct, you got a problem. That ain't fair by any stretch of the imagination. But like I said, it gets worse. It gets worse. Franchise tax board, the foundation of their claim is the Constitution, that is what is the authority for the laws and to tax, that the tax is created by law. This guy actually came out and said that the witnesses weren't necessary because two things: frivolous argument, which I'll address, yes, because an issue of law is a frivolous argument. Frivolous argument. What he did was he said that the witnesses were not necessary because the franchise tax board's assessment is built entirely on the compulsory income tax reports. I added the compulsory because that's the way it is. Section 19701 of the Revenue and Taxation Code in California, for those people who think it's hyperbole. You either give the reports or you go to prison, okay? Now, the average person may be thinking, well, Mark, isn't that correct? Isn't the assessment built entirely on the income reports? Yeah, we know it's compulsory, but isn't it accurate? Well, it's misleading, and it is not accurate. To say that their assessment is built entirely on the reported income is a lie. It is grossly dishonest because, as I just mentioned, the foundation of the assessment is the law. Article 13 of the California Constitution is supposed to be the authority to tax. That is where the Revenue and Taxation Code comes from. That is the basis of their claim. The reported income, again, compulsory, on the threat of prison. The reported income is not relevant if they don't have jurisdiction. If they can't show that the Constitution applies and creates a liability. So the reported income is completely irrelevant until that is done. Does the reported income in and of itself prove that it's taxable? This is pretty basic stuff over here. The answer is no. Just having money doesn't in and of itself, just that fact, show it's taxable. You have to have more facts that the laws apply to you for it to be taxable. So if you understand relevance and why it's important, you can see where the reported income. Yeah, I brought this up. I argued this. I'm a fungal. They don't care. We're going to all let it go in at the hearing, which is a way to say if you can't get this taken care of at the pretrial conference, if they're not going to exclude what is irrelevant, what possible chance do you have of a fair hearing? The point of doing the pretrial and having a pretrial status conference the whole point is to address pretrial issues, what should or should be not addressed at trial. And this guy wants to turn around and say that the assessment is built entirely on the reported income. That is a level of dishonesty that is rare even for these people. This is the administrative law judge going out of his way to argue for the franchise tax board. No wonder they want to say that the franchise tax board's claim that the Constitution applies because she's physically in California and my challenge is frivolous is because there's no evidence. They cannot support their claim. Frivolous argument. So, in my response, which I'll post, bring it. The only frivolous arguments that are being raised here are by the administrative law judge and the franchise tax board. What is a frivolous argument? Now, if you ask someone at the franchise tax board at the IRS, I have been told this on multiple occasions. I will point out that not one of the attorneys at the franchise tax board or the IRS has made this claim. Doesn't mean that they won't. Doesn't mean that they haven't. But I've only heard this from low level, in middle management at the franchise tax board in the IRS. A frivolous argument is any argument that disagrees with the franchise tax board or the IRS. You believe that? They actually believe that a frivolous argument is any argument that counters theirs. I'll tell you what a frivolous argument actually is, and where you can see that the IRS is the most notorious one, or the franchise tax board. They're the ones that are doing the frivolous arguments. There's two things that have to be present for a frivolous argument. It has to be so bad it requires no demonstration to show it's bad. And two, it must be brought in bad faith. Yeah. Someone said, do you mean to tell me that clarification of a fact is a frivolous argument? No, what they're trying to actually say here is my pointing out that they admittedly cannot make their claim, that is a frivolous argument. I can prove it. I can prove it. And that's the rub. They don't want you to prove it. And even if you did, about fungal, they don't care. They don't care. So we're not making a frivolous argument. We're taking the franchise tax board's own admission. There's two of them. Okay. One, yes, if you're physically in California or have a California source of income, yes, the constitutional laws apply. I then ask them if there's evidence, and they admittedly don't have it. Now they know they don't have the evidence and they come after me anyway. There's your bad faith. There's your frivolous argument. To actually then argue or to have someone on YouTube, you're an idiot. Mark's an idiot. You don't need evidence. To actually argue that you can make a claim that an obligation was created and you don't need evidence, that is a frivolous argument. And 218-632-9399. 218-632-9399. Passcode is 2020. Show me where that is wrong. A frivolous argument is not one that is just wrong. People make wrong arguments all the time. Doesn't mean that they're frivolous, and even the United States Court of Appeals has said so on many an occasion. I could be wrong in my assertion that they admittedly don't have evidence to support their claim. Yeah, of course, I could be wrong, but I got evidence to support it. I got the agent's own admissions. And then to make it worse, they're not only threatening a $5,000 penalty for just pointing out they admittedly cannot support their claim. They admitted it was an assumption. But we're making the frivolous argument. About phone go back to you, huh? So to add insult to injury and all this, if you want to just have an example of how corrupt and how vile these people are, while they are threatening a $5,000 fine for pointing out that they admittedly can't make a case and that it is based on an assumption, The Franchise Tax Board filed a false statement in their brief. They said that my position was that the Franchise Tax Board didn't show that, didn't show that there was income reported. That is a false statement. We objected to it, moved for sanctions. To this day, months later, nothing. Nothing. It's still a part of the record. And this vile lawyer, this cretin, while he's threatening a $5,000 fine for pointing out that the Franchise Tax Board, relies on an assumption, said nothing could be done, that this counsel for the FTB lied in their brief. Nothing. You can't even ask him nicely to delete it and correct the record. Nope. Nope. That's why we say that these judges, administrative law judges, traffic court judges, they're rubber stamps. They're just rubber stamps. How, look, and I'm going to post the actual documents in a separate video, and you can make up your own mind. But how vile is it? How dishonest a person is it to threaten a $5,000 fine while allowing the Franchise Tax Board to literally lie and through the mail in an effort to take somebody's money? Yeah, Rika, they've made it clear they don't care about Mark's evidence. Of course, there's an agenda here. The Franchise Tax Board, the tax man, is always right. And any argument to the contrary is automatically frivolous, regardless of what the word frivolous actually means. These people are crooks. And it's not just because of what they're doing here. They were crooks before I ever entered into the picture. What I'm doing is exposing just how corrupt these people are. It's not a matter of changing them out. They did change them out. There is no more. The Board of Equalization does not do these tax appeals anymore. They have administrative law judges that do it. At least this one who's making these decisions, dang, he is a lawyer. What did his law school education do? Did he ever learn about ethics? Because obviously he doesn't. I would love to see the justification from a critic regarding this. Even just at this point where you have to assume that what I'm saying, the facts are accurate. You don't have to assume all the facts are accurate. You can actually go back into the call of shames from last year. It was the last call of shame I did. I had the actual phone call with the tax counsel admitting it was an assumption. He admitted it. And I'm sure a critic would not doubt for a second that they are saying it's a frivolous argument. Everything's frivolous, 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 frivolous. Damn it. A frivolous argument is when you make an argument without facts, without logic, and then argue you don't even need evidence, that you can argue that this created that, and you don't need to prove it. Of course, because you got a prison system. And then you got all these people out there. You got people convinced that lawyers are actually authorities. And I mean authority in the sense that they know the law. They know they know law and procedure. And because if they do know law and procedure, they can tell you right now that this is dishonest and this is a gross violation of due process. This Mr. Dang has told us, and he has basically slapped us in the face saying, you are not going to be treated fair in any sense of the word with me. That's what he's done. During role play, a few times it's been brought up Brady and Discovery, same motion. They are not same motion. The Discovery request, it is not a motion to the court. And the Discovery and the Brady are in the same request. Brady material is not always considered the same thing as as basic discovery material. Brady material is specifically evidence that is material to showing that you're innocent, and material that can be used to impeach the evidence and the witnesses that the prosecution's brought against you, called exculpatory evidence. Okay, it is absolutely not a motion to the court. You're only filing it with the court so you can document that you sent it and the day that you send it to the prosecution. So the other thing, the thing with this too is, and I've mentioned it briefly, with these judges, there's no rational argument against what, to counter what I'm presenting here. And again, we have the one in California also, where I said we had a 100% track record where the judge absolutely refused to even acknowledge the Anti-Injunctive Tax Act. And I've yet to see an argument put forward that says that the judge doesn't have to acknowledge that, because there isn't a logical argument to that. So here we have another example where, unfortunately, we've gone down this road again. It's been a long time, and the judge will not even acknowledge the Anti-Injunctive Tax Act, narrow exception from the Enoch case. Won't even mention it. But this franchise tax board is just, it is, you're stuck. You have very little remedy at that point, what you could do to stop a garnishment. Because what they'll say is, well, you had every opportunity to check. This is another, just sticks with me, that people will say, but you had every opportunity to have your issues heard administratively. No, we didn't. They are not getting the issue correct. I've done this before. Every single time, they will not get the actual issue correct. It looks like you're having a hearing, but you're not. It's like when Harry met Sally. See, there you go again. It sounds like a compliment, but it's not. It looks like a hearing, but it's not. It may look like a duck. It may quack like a duck. Hell, it may even walk like a duck. Doesn't mean it is a duck. Could just be some idiot in duck outfit. This is all, like I've said for years, it's a dog and pony show. The stakes are so much higher here because the fines are so much higher, and there's so many more roadblocks. It's so much more expensive for you to get heard at all in a tax situation, as opposed to a regular court case where it's traffic or possession, stuff like that. It doesn't cost you $5,000 to appeal a traffic ticket. But what they do is they refuse to hear your argument. They label it frivolous. And if you're in the United States tax court, they will hit you with a $25,000 fine. You have to, for each year. So if you go in for 3 or 4 years, you're looking at $100,000 in fines. You have to pay that before you can appeal. So they can be even more brazen than the traffic court, because at the traffic court, a lot of times you have a trial de novo. So it could, you get in front of another judge, but you're still going to get at least one level of appeal where the issue might actually get heard. You don't get that with taxes. You either pay, or they take your stuff. And most of the time, by design, you cannot pay the fines. Can you imagine $25,000 for raising an argument they think is frivolous? 25 grand. Now, tell me that is not done just to keep you from getting heard. $25,000. I worked with someone years ago that got sanctioned for an argument that we didn't even raise. Some lawyer did, Larry Beecraft. It was literally a Larry Beecraft argument, and they copied and pasted their order from somewhere where they sanctioned Larry Beecraft. We never even raised the argument. Doesn't matter. You get the people who love the system, who profit off the system, who live comfortably because of the system, defending the system, not with a logical argument, not by showing that the facts are wrong, just by denigrating me. And that's what you see. So it's really unfortunate. I hate that we get to this position, but we have to look at other options, if any are available, to correct the situation. Because what the Franchise Tax Board or the IRS does is they move to a garnishment. And you won't be able, and go into court, Anti-Injunctive Tax Act. Yes, but there's a narrow exception. Well, nope. Frivolous. This is something that I brought up before, what we could do to maybe get it into some mainstream media so people could see just how corrupt these courts are. And it doesn't mean, and I mean that it's more so when it's taxes that judges bend over backwards for the tax people. So what I mentioned before, maybe I don't know if this is something that we can ever pursue. It takes, money, some money, and it takes people willing to go and be an activist to make a point. And that would be to bring a bunch of tax cases all over California, for example. We could even do it at the federal level. And watch how 100% of the judges, every single one of them, refusing to even acknowledge the Anti-Injunctive Tax Act. So you would think that if we can get 25 or 30 people to do that, and then to be able to show the documentation that maybe an investigative journalist would say, there's something very fishy going on here. This is really, really unusual. This should not be happening. This is a concerted effort. I'm not saying that they're calling, oh, dude, you got one too? Yeah, don't acknowledge it. No, but it's an unspoken conspiracy or collusion or acting in concert. The Franchise Tax Board never gets ruled against. It's always the Anti-Injunctive Tax Act. And what we could also do is to show that 100% of the trial court judges refuse, regardless of whether it's San Diego, Fresno, it doesn't matter. They won't even acknowledge it. But then you could go into the appellate court on a petition for writ of mandate because you can force them to take judicial notice of the exception, and every single one of the courts will throw it out. Every single one. In fact, we've had them throw it out on grounds, I'm repeating myself, on the grounds we didn't show an abuse of discretion, which anybody who knows anything about a petition for a mandamus or mandate knows it is for a mandatory function, not a discretionary one. You don't have to show an abuse of discretion with a petition for writ of mandate. All you have to do is show the rule requires compliance. And they didn't comply. And 100% of the appellate judges will not even look at the petition and will lie saying we have to show. So maybe, that is something that would make, I think, a great documentary for like Netflix. But, that would be solid evidence. How would they explain every single judge not even acknowledging the Anti-Injunctive Tax Act? Every single one. How would they explain that? Well, he raised a frivolous argument. If the facts taken as true entitle him to relief, and the facts taken as true show that the Franchise Tax Board is violating due process and cannot they can't make their case under any circumstances, then the judge has to put. I don't see that there's an argument for the judge not applying the law here, other than screaming like an idiot. It's a frivolous argument. The Franchise Tax Board admitted it was an assumption. Under no circumstances can they prevail on an assumption. That alone should at least get us past the initial motion to dismiss, but it doesn't, because they won't look at the facts and apply the law. And they do it uniformly against us. It's a frivolous argument. Oh, Gosh, it's like these people get paid by the word. What are you in law school, or they give you, okay, here's the deal. If you're one of these here government lawyers, we got something for you. This is going to be a 2-minute class for you today here at the law school, and this is going to serve you well. This is going to serve you better than the Socratic method. This is going to serve you better than studying that there, precedent. This is going to serve you well. You have to just use one word: frivolous. Now, this doesn't work if you're not a government attorney, but if you're one of them there government attorneys, this is your bread and butter. So if they ask you, have you been to law school and have you been taught the magic word? You can say, I went to law school and I learned the magic word if I am a government lawyer. And then you can say, it's frivolous. Defeats every argument if you are a government lawyer. That's frivolous. You don't have to show bad faith. You don't have to do anything. It's frivolous. It's just like with Trump and Republicans and politicians. If they are accusing somebody of something, they are knee deep in it. Larry Craig going and constantly screaming and trying to take rights away from people who are homosexual. Some of the gayest out there are the ones who outwardly say that they're not gay, screaming about people and the evils of homosexuality. Closeted homosexuals. I don't know how many times that has played out, whether they're politicians or they're religious. The hypocrisy just gives me a bad taste in my mouth over here. Oh, man. Well, you know what? I don't know what happened with the calls. I was expecting calls. So I didn't have to wear the headphones for this. So I do appreciate that. I don't want to just keep rambling on about how corrupt they are, because they are. And if anyone wants to make an argument, if anyone said, well, you gosh, that Mark Stevens or this, he's just an anarchist, then just say, you know what? Why don't you address the actual argument? Let's just assume that Mark Stevens is an idiot. Okay, I've mentioned here, I'll wear that mantle. I don't care, as long as someone could just address the argument. It's not about me. It's not about me. Look at the argument. If someone can actually produce an argument that it's fair somehow for a judge in a tax case to not look at the facts, accept them as true for the purpose of the motion to dismiss, and apply those facts to the narrow exception of the Anti-Injunctive Tax Act. Why shouldn't the judge follow the law there? Why? And I am so sick to death of hearing this crap. It's a frivolous argument. Bull. If you argue that X created Y, you damn well have to put up the evidence to prove that that's true. And you're the one raising the frivolous argument if you say you don't have to prove that. Again, remember, when people say this, the only people who can get away with that kind of crap are violent people who have a prison system. Otherwise, you can walk away laughing. And we don't have to take people like that serious unless they have a gun, or they have useful idiots with guns who will carry out their order. I'll just do my job, boy. You don't like it, why don't you vote new people in there and they'll give me different rules to follow? Good God. I'm already disconnected from the call line, so I'm winding up the show. So I'm not going to be able to do that. Come over to Discord. I'd have to start that, and I have a serious problem with this particular computer. I have to use my other computer for audio. I'm going to do what I can to fix this. Hey, at least I have less of a problem because I don't have to I have to connect to the network anymore for a live broadcast. I'm going to try Linux Mint and see how that works and see if that takes care of my driver problem. But We'll see. We'll see. It definitely goes to show that an older Mac can run circles around a new Windows machine, which oh I can't stand Windows machines. Ay vey, give me a break. These things are garbage. And before anyone says anything, this is a pretty high end machine. Matt did well, and this is a high end machine, but they just don't work. I appreciate that, and so please, Matt, don't take this the wrong way. It just doesn't work. There's a problem. It just doesn't work nearly as reliably as the Mac. Hope I didn't make an enemy just there. Again, I wow. If there was something I wanted to pull down, this would probably be it. But I'm not going to. I'm gonna. I have to wrap up. I have other things to take care of. But I do appreciate people tuning into the big show today. Uh, Hopefully, the call, whatever problems, I'll do a show. I should be doing the show live Saturday, same time, but it'll be from 1 to 3, not 1 to 4 Pacific time. So, Mark, who will I know if it will be a Friday? I'm gonna have to put that. Yeah, Hackintosh. That's what I need to do. I'm gonna have Stuart. I'm gonna have to put that on my website, markstevens.net, whether the show is going to be on a Friday or Saturday. So look at the show, the notes there, whatever it's called, the highlights on markstevens.net, the right side. That'll let you know what day the show is going to be on. This time, it's most likely going to be on Saturday. So we'll see. Well, if you're subbed, you will know when the show goes live, maybe. But I appreciate everyone tuning in today. I hate that we have to talk about these train wrecks, but it's why we need to get to a voluntary society. It's why we have to get rid of the ruling class and not allow people to function the way they are, and that they have a moral right to be immoral, and that they can destroy people's lives and just walk away, without a care in the world. Wealthy people of power don't have to care. They have the privilege of not caring. They don't have to care. They're going to get paid anyway. Why? Because they're just men and women forcing us to give them money. So appreciate everyone supporting the show. If you want to do so, it's markstevens.sales.com. Again, it's markstevens.sales.com and also markstevens.net. This will be, I'll have the podcast up today. And again, I should be live on Saturday. So, hey, till then, salud.